All right, so here we are. Welcome to the Detroit Hustle Podcast. I'm Melinda Powers, your host, and today our guest is Walter Mosley. He is a fabulous attorney out in LA. I happen to know him from high school, so I got to see his progression from then to now, and it's been really great watching him do his thing, and we're going to talk to him about his journey. So, hi, Walter, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So it's been a long time. Haven't seen you in a while, but I have seen you on social media and television. So it's kind of like I've seen you recently in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a while since we had a chance to connect, and but I'm certainly very proud of what you've been building and what you've been growing back home.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I'm in Florida, but I'm doing it for the D, so it does count. It's all virtual. No one cares. But
Well,
so I know that you're doing the entertainment law thing, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to start out just letting you introduce yourself, kind of telling your roots and where you come from, and just talk about that for a few minutes for those of us who don't know who you are.
sure. So Walter Mosley. I'm originally from I grew up on 4150 West Outer Drive, which is Outer Drive. It's like between Myers, Wyoming, and
Okay.
I went to school, grade school. I was at a school called Grosse Pointe Academy, which was in St. Clair Shores.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I left, graduated from Grosse Pointe, I went to UAD for a year.
Okay.
And then in the 10th grade, I transferred to Cass,
Okay.
which
So I
is,
didn't know that. I thought you started at Cass. So what made you transfer to Cass?
I was being honest with you, I think I just wanted to meet girls. UAD was an all-boys school.
Well, I mean, at that age, that's most of our motivation.
I think, yeah, I was like
Opposite sex.
14. I was
Yeah.
14. I was like, I went to Grosse Pointe Academy, which was like an all predominantly white school.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to UAD, which is a pretty integrated school.
Right.
And just a few blocks from me, but ultimately, like, it was in the pursuit of like my sisters. I was just ready to like meet them and be around them. And
Okay.
my mom went to Cass, my grandmother went to Cass, so it also was a bit of a legacy for me.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and both of my cousins were there. So Brian Tutt and Aris Collins, they were a year above me. Well,
Uh-huh.
Brian was 2 years above me, and then Aris was 1 year above me. So they were both there. So I wanted to be in high school with them, and
Okay.
so I went there. And then my brother James followed me the year after.
Right. I do remember your brother as well. He was younger, right?
He was a year younger
Yeah.
than me.
So he was in my
Um,
class then, because you're
yeah,
97. Okay, yeah,
I'm
all
like,
right.
I'm 96. He's
Oh, you're
97.
90s. Oh, okay. So I got that mixed up. Sorry. So I'm
No
98.
worries.
So I'm after
No
him.
worries.
Okay. All right. So clear, my memory's not the best sometimes, but
Well, I mean, this is over 20 years ago, my friend. So,
I know. Right,
uh, whose
right.
memory is the best from back then?
But thankfully, we all look young still. So that's
Here
great.
we go. That's
Yeah.
that. Was straight water.
Yeah. Right. Best in the world. So, okay, you gave us the overview. And so then I know you went to undergrad at Michigan, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I stayed close to home. I went to Michigan. I studied engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I was set to be a computer engineer. I worked at Intel Corp. I think I worked at Procter and Gamble my first summer. I was in Inroads.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I went to Intel in California. That was my first time ever. That was my first time ever going to California, quite frankly.
Okay.
To Northern California, and I thought I would just be I had the dream to be like starter.com, do something in tech,
Uh-huh.
and that was kind of my passion as an 18, 19-year-old. I started a bunch of businesses and built websites, and I did all types of like mini hustles in
Mm-hmm.
school to, I wanted a new Explorer, so with big speakers and, grams and everything you would expect someone from Detroit would have.
Right.
Um, I did that, and then I did that through like writing programs and selling those services and starting companies, and that was kind of like what I did in college, in addition to like designing chips and writing code.
Okay.
Um, and when I got out to California, I realized that I wasn't quite that type of nerd. I mean, I was a nerd, but I wasn't like at the time. I wasn't like the Star Wars geek that I found like coworkers to be. I had a little bit more balance, and I wanted to be a little bit more creative.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I left. I left there and I ended up coming back to Michigan to do a master's in information science. And it was still like in tech. I still felt like I was going to do some, go back out to like Silicon Valley and create some tech company. This is kind of like 2000, 2002. And then 9/11 happened. There was a little bit of a downturn, and I had some curiosity about, like my own Blackness and, in Africa and the diaspora, and like wanting to make sure that I got a chance to experience being like learning what it meant to be a Black man. And I think growing up in Detroit, in a predominantly Black city with a Black mayor, and the doctors are Black, the lawyers are Black, and seeing us run things and being a part of it, not only does it give you a lot of confidence, but it also gives you a great insight into like your capabilities and who you are and what you were in this world before, you were brought here. So I got a great opportunity to work on a couple of UN projects in South Africa.
Wow.
I did a big thing, Summit on Sustainability in Johannesburg, and I got a chance to get all over. Spoke at the African Development Forum in Addis, Ethiopia, and Namibia, and Botswana, and Nigeria and Ghana. I got a chance to really travel the continent for a little bit better than a year in conjunction with my master's program. And I literally left the airplane. Like I gave a speech in Johannesburg. I got on the plane and I flew to Harvard for school.
Wow.
I went to Harvard unseen. It was between Harvard and Stanford. I've always had this bug for California. And so I initially knew I was going to get here. I didn't know how to secure this route, certainly. But so I ended up just going to Harvard. It was Harvard, so I figured I need to go visit it first. My dad's a tax lawyer and a developer in Detroit, and he went to Northwestern for JD and BA. So there was a lot of family pressure. My mom went to Michigan. There was a lot of family pressure to go to Northwestern. My dad was there. My brother James did his undergrad and his medical school, cardiology work at Northwestern as well. So there's a lot of pressure in Chicago. It's like, the city next door. So everybody had a bunch of friends and family there. So it came really down to, do I want to be in Chicago or Boston? Ended up going to Boston, going to Cambridge.
So what gave you the courage to buck against the family pressure?
Well, I just, there's this video of me when I played hockey when I was growing up. We had an all-Black hockey team, which was unheard of in the 80s.
Really? Okay.
We won multiple state championships. We were just like, we had the police escorts. It was actually a really big deal. I didn't realize how significant it was. Jesse Jackson came to speak to our team. Like, we were like really kind of, pioneers at that time. There wasn't, there's Black players now. I think it was like Grant Fuhrer back in the day, but it wasn't, we didn't play, but there's a hockey rink on, I think, Linden and Myers, called Jack Adams, and that's where I found hockey. My mom wanted the kids at Grosse Pointe Academy play hockey. My mom was like, "Hey, I need you to have a little culture about this." And she found before we had internet and Yelp and other things, she found like the one place where Black people were playing, and so that's how I ended up in hockey in Detroit, and which was a fantastic experience. And I made a lot of lifelong friendships doing that. Well, I just want
to interject for a second because we have a connection there because your mother and my mother actually worked together as teachers in Detroit.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they did at Marquette.
Wow.
And they're both named Linda, if I'm not mistaken. Your mom's Linda.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, they're both named Linda, and they both worked at Marquette.
my mom stayed on the east side, working.
Okay.
Which is so interesting. We all, I grew up on the west side, and that's also why we were at Grosse Pointe because it was an easier commute. That like that's going east towards
Yeah.
where she was at school. But yeah, she, my mom taught third and fourth grade in Detroit public schools for more than 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Probably almost close to 40 years, until she retired. So
Yeah.
have a lot of respect for school teachers.
Oh, me too, because I couldn't do
it.
it.
So I went to law school, had a great time in law school,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to be a like mergers and acquisition lawyer, like a big time Wall Street lawyer. That was kind of like what I thought I would be.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great opportunity. I saw a lot of great examples of, particularly of Black men and women that were from Harvard that were really running big business.
Okay.
And I got a chance to, when I was in college, law school. My cousin, Spencer Overton, who went to Southfield High School. He also went to Harvard Law School, and he was classmates with at the time it was State Senator Barack Obama. And he called me and was like, "Yeah, I got this guy. He's in 8th place in the U.S. Senate in Illinois. I want you to do a fundraiser for him."
Wow.
And he's like, just help him out. He's coming to Boston. Like, see if we can get some students together. And so I got to meet President Obama when he was, like, say, he was in 8th place in the primary.
Uh-huh.
And then I had an epic run where people started falling out in front of him, and then he won the U.S. Senate, and then obviously the presidency. But I got a chance to work with him at the very, very, very beginning with a couple of my professors, and build a relationship with him before he was a senator.
And what was that like? I'm sure people want to know what that was like.
That was great. I mean, he had all the elements that you wanted. I mean, trying to get a bunch of students together to support someone that was not known with a funny name was challenging. And also, we didn't have any Black senators at the time.
Okay.
And didn't think we'd get Black senators. So it was tricky, but there is a sense of community in Harvard Law School where the Black folks support each other. And so, my friends came out, and I was, like I said, I was wrangling, trying to get, we were doing $5 and $10 bills. We were all students, give a few dollars to this campaign to make it work, make it worth his while. We did that at Professor Wilkins' house, and it was just a great event. I was actually late because I had class, so I organized. I was running to catch up to him. I can't tell you I knew he was about to become president, but I certainly knew it was special.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to, meet him there, and then, as he started to grow his business, and I got a chance to, join various committees and do various fundraisers for him throughout his run for the U.S. Senate and for the president when I got to California. It was just a great experience, and it was cool to think that the president knows my first name.
Right.
I took a lot of that, made me proud. When I got back to Detroit, and I'll come back to that story. That jumps a little bit. I mean, I finished law school, and I had an opportunity to clerk. This kind of leads into it nicely. I had an opportunity to clerk for Judge Shannon Keith on the Sixth Circuit for appeals after law school.
Right.
So I delayed going to New York for 1 year to go work there because I was like, I want to go back home. It was actually the year of my high school reunion and the year of the Super Bowl. And so that's like a big year. Everybody was there, and so I got a chance to be an adult in Detroit and have a job.
Right.
That was one of the best years really of my life because I stayed at my parents' house. I didn't even bother getting an apartment. I stayed my dad's house is downtown. My mom lived in the suburbs, and I just commuted and got a chance to spend time with both of them while I was studying for I was working. I studied for the California State Bar there as well.
Okay.
So I just really it was just a really nice experience to be back home during that exciting time, and with the mayor election, and it was Kilpatrick versus Hendricks.
Yeah,
and,
I remember that. I was in law school at that time.
Yeah, and so then and then being working for the judge and him staying impartial but being friends with everybody, and Governor Granholm also went to Harvard Law School.
Okay.
And she was someone I reached out to. She was so nice. And then I believe now she's a Secretary of State. But at the time she was a dean at the Wayne State Law School.
Okay.
And so it's so crazy. I went to I'll tell you another short story. I apologize. I got distracted. My little brother. My little brother's calling me.
Okay.
Let me close this line. Sorry about that.
Sure, no problem.
So when I was in law school, my second year, this woman, her name was Jocelyn. Jocelyn Benson came to me, and in class, she was like, "I saw from the book that you're from Detroit. I went, I'm she's from Canada, and she's from Michigan, and she introduced herself. And we hit it off, and she's like, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go clerk for this guy named Judge Keith. And I was like, that's really cool. I know him. I won the Judge Keith scholarship to go to Interlochen when I was a kid. So obviously he's a Detroit legend in general, but I just had this connection with him. So when I got to town, I was one of the first people I called, Jocelyn, and she was just, like I said, just a super wonderful person, and see her progression and growth, and see so many people that came out of Judge Keith's chambers turn into such great people. It's been great, and I'm happy to be a part of that legacy.
Definitely.
Of law clerk. So
yeah, we kept a collection on him at the law school at Wayne State, because I went to Wayne, and we had the Damon Keith collection there.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think we distributed it. And while I was there, Rosa Parks passed away.
Right.
And I had met her multiple times. My godmother is Irma Henderson.
Okay.
First Black woman to be city council president. And I was very fortunate to meet, to have met her multiple different times. Even older in life, I met her when I was in law school, and so Judge Keith was part of the committee, or heading the committee for services. That's where I got a chance to reintroduce myself to, at this time, it was State Senator Obama,
right?
Who had a fit. Who had some nice words at the eulogy, where someone yelled, "I love you, Mr. President." He hadn't announced yet, and he chuckled, kind of like foreshadowing who he would become in a few years. And so just a great year back home. My dad, is a tax lawyer by trade. And then him and his partners started to develop on Woodward, the Garden Theater, and the other buildings around there. And they were in construction. They were building this out, and it was just a really nice time to be home and be a part of the growth of the city. Yeah. And I was happy. I left. Yeah. To jump in line, I did the year there. I went to Los Angeles, worked at a big law firm. Met a woman named Debbie Allen, who adopted me said, "Walter, our people need a lawyer like you to represent them in entertainment. Wow. You should leave that big do that." She believed in me. She let me sleep on her couch. She was my first client. Wow. She let me, have a small little desk in her office and build my business from nothing. And so even now, she's, I'm there. I'm at her school, on her board. Okay. I saw that you do some pro bono work for, is it a foundation? Or the Debbie Allen Dance Academy. The Academy, there. Right. Okay. And that's so amazing. I've been able to grow into a producer and produce with her and trade with her. And just, she's just, my second mom. Wow. My LA mom. And then I just built this business. I mean, my business is it started very simple. Like, I had Debbie Allen. I had some other fancier, fancy is not the right word, but I had clients that were legendary Hollywood, Black Hollywood folks, but the big law firms who didn't necessarily hire us, they weren't really having it when their clients were used to use, this young, 26, maybe 27-year-old lawyer. You just don't bust through a place that's been open for business for 150 years.
Right.
And do a lot of livelihood based on. So, even when I would get a little bit of work from these guys, they wanted to help me. They're still a big system. They still have big agents and big managers and big other. So,
Right.
some people I met earlier on, James Blac, who's Will Smith's partner and former manager, and does all work with him. Some of the advice I was getting for some of these big guys was like, you got to carve your own space. You got to find your own space. And, I met Amber Rose.
Yeah.
I did.
That's when I started to see you out like on stuff. I think my mom actually kind of alerted me to it through your mom. They had spoken and she was like, hey, your friend Walter from high school, he's like on TV and representing these stars. And I was like, really? I didn't know he was into that because I had lost touch with you. I think the last time I saw you was when you were in Detroit because I was in law school at the time. And so I started to kind of follow you and I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting. And it's just weird because though we hadn't talked in years, I kind of feel like, that's my hometown guy. That's kind of cool. Like a little Detroit and Hollywood. That's how I looked at it.
Yeah. And Amber was, at the time, she had tremendous vision. She sat me down. She was like, well, we can make money together. And I didn't know how. And she was like, she really believes in herself. She's like, yeah, I'm going to make it. I'm going to really, I'm going to grow this thing. And that's going to help her. I didn't know because this is before Instagram, this is before Snapchat, this is before, Facebook, you had to have a college email address.
Yeah.
There wasn't a thing. Nobody wanted to represent women like Amber and Chyna. They were just ex-girlfriends of rappers, essentially, is what were described as. Like Twitter was like a couple years old, maybe a year, maybe two. But I had some interesting experiences. One of my best friends is Reggie Bush, and I was chatting to him with a new spot for so much of my business. At the time, his girlfriend was Kim Kardashian, and I got a chance to study and look what they were doing while I was building my practice in a different way. I wasn't studying it to replicate it. I was just always curious about business and how people are doing different things. And the advice I was getting, what I was saying from folks like James Blaster was, hey, listen, create your own lane.
Right.
So I created a lane with the social influencers and the YouTubers before there was a business. Before now it's a big business. So now
it's huge.
Now you're the same law firms. Now the agencies all have departments. Like it's very saturated. But before people didn't want to say they represented these particular people or work with them. Now now I look smart 5, 10 years, more than 10 years later. So that's why I built my business. And so I always have such a love and respect for Amber because she, as much as I may have helped her, she really helped to create a really niche position for me and what I was able to do. So, I did my first movie with her. I did my first television. I produced television show I produced with her. And now, as my television business has grown, tremendously, my business has grown. Now I'm doing a bunch of different things, but it started there. So I've had a chance to work with so many great pieces of talent as a lawyer, as a manager, as an advisor, as a producer. And so I still have, I'll wrap this up so we can get to the more conversation. So I still have a law firm, a law firm, which is, I'm known for that. I do a bunch of stuff now in women's rights.
Okay.
I became a big feminist because I've represented almost primarily all women.
Right.
Done a lot of stuff in revenge porn, body shaming, slut shaming, as they call it, and just helping to uplift and give a voice to women in a time where now this Me Too, and now people are starting to respect the voice of women, the bodies of women a little bit more. Certainly 5 years ago, 3 years ago even, but there's still a long way that we have to go in that journey.
Right.
So I think, so I built a business around there. I have a broader law practice because now my firm is growing. I can handle labor and employment and discrimination and plaintiffs, personal injury, plaintiff side stuff. in addition to what I do in entertainment. And like I said, I also have a bunch of clients that I produce with and write with and create with.
Gotcha.
Every day I meet another person or get reconnected with another person that is from home that's doing something great. I was at the Snowfall premiere. I ran into Angela Lewis, who was my year at
Yes.
CAD.
She was she was our last guest last week, so that's really funny that you mentioned her.
But Angie, I had seen her in a while, and I was so proud of her. And
Mm-hmm.
she was with Walter Mosley, the writer, and like we all had a funny little moment. We had Miss Phillips together for English honors English.
Okay.
And Mrs. Phillips was the first teacher that made me read a Walter Mosley novel. She was like, you can't be Walter Mosley and not know who Walter Mosley is. You will get it all your life. Because every single day I get a Walter Mosley question or comment. It's been nothing but nice and gracious and amazing to me over all these years. And so it was really cool. And then I was in another meeting the other day. And, Dominique Marusso was also in my class. He was also in all these things, classes with me. I think Dominique and I had honors geometry with Mrs. Wilshire.
Okay.
With 10th grade, but we were tracked the same, and she's on Broadway now. Her new place is on Broadway, and
she's amazing.
College, we all went to Michigan as well together. So it was just, Jimmy Keys. There's so many like really cool and interesting people. Chris Perry, who played running back at Michigan when I was there, him and his wife.
Okay.
Our kids go to same school together, and he's doing so well. They're doing so well. It's a beautiful family. But I'm always constantly working with people from Detroit that live in LA, that moved from LA. They come from Detroit or I know from Michigan, and it's a great breeding ground and growing ground for the most amazing people you will ever meet in the world.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that we do a good job of is constantly wanting to reach back, to give back, invest back there. My cousins Brian and Reese are doing great things in real estate and other business creation. Like, my dad's still developing. There's for opportunities to build business and enterprise and have a reason to go back home more often, quite frankly.
I just went back for my 20 year in the summer, and I was just floored by downtown because I remember what it was like when we were in high school, and it's totally different. And I saw the changes when I was in law school as well, but it was just starting then. And so not coming back as often and then coming back to see that was like, wow. Because I think they were laying the Q line tracks the last time I visited, which was like 3 years before. And, it's up and running, and you got Little Caesars Arena now and all of these restaurants, and the Chyna Hotel, it wasn't open yet, but it was up. And I was just like, man, this is a trip seeing Detroit like this versus, how I always remember it being. But it was something I think I knew it always could be. So it's a very proud moment to see it where it is.
It is. It's very powerful and very amazing.
Definitely. So now my question, just to wrap up your journey, because you gave us the whole journey. I appreciate that. I didn't have to interject much because you took us on that trip. Did you imagine, like, did you always intend to be doing what you're doing? Like, or was there a moment when you talked about being in tech first, so we know not initially, but once you got on the track, once you got to Harvard and all that, did you kind of envision yourself on this path, or did something kind of prompt you to switch your focus to get to where you're at now with the entertainment law?
I think, it's an attempt for this not to sound cliche. I think there is there's like a Detroit hustler breeding thing that happens. Right? So I delivered the Detroit Free Press at a paper route when I was, 10. I mean, to think about 9-10-year-old walking down streets and throwing papers early in the morning or early in the afternoon, it sounds a little outrageous now, but and I would go collect, and at that time you pick up the papers, but you also had to go to the person and collect $1, $1.25, whatever their subscription was.
Right.
In cash. And you have to walk back home.
Mm-hmm.
I shoveled snow. I cut lawns. I mean, I have two brothers, she's the three of us. And we were all doing this. It was a family enterprise. I did paper out. We all did paper out.
Right.
Straight up. I'm shoveling snow. We're all shoveling snow. We're all cutting the lawn. We're all raking leaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, then the lady next door to me had a word processing business, and I knew how to type. I went over there. I typed for her.
Okay.
Child labor, it didn't matter. I was 14.
Right.
I take my check and I bust it down. I give my mom some. I give my brother some. I put it in my pocket. And my brothers worked. I remember my brothers turned 15. He worked at Arby's. He did the same thing. So it was just, there's always been this hustle, this resale, this like spirit inside of me that I attribute to being part of like how I was built from where I was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, when I was in college, I wanted a new car. I guess I could have asked my parents for it, but I went and created a business and sold that. And tech was the wave in the early 90s. .com and these type of things.
Definitely.
And tech is still the wave. I still have. We didn't even talk about my tech business. I still do a bunch of stuff in tech.
Okay.
And so I ended up in Los Angeles. So when I was in New York, I was an M&A lawyer. When I got to LA, it's this entertainment capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I'm going to be in entertainment. I'm more of an entertainment entrepreneur than I am anything else.
Gotcha.
I have a skill set of being an entertainment lawyer, but I make my real money and I make my real mark in creating content, selling content, packaging it, putting it together, and selling it. And so I think it's just, the answer is no, I didn't plan to do this.
Right.
I wasn't, I think I've always been creative, and I was, I started college as a music major. I was a music and engineering double major. I was always
we
like
played in the band together.
We played the band, exactly. I've always had that. I've always been, I've always had a creative sense about myself.
Right.
I've always enjoyed art. But no, I didn't know I was going to do this. But if I was back home, I would be, I'd probably be selling cars, like, or building some type of tech inside a car. Right.
Gotcha.
I would, if I was in Texas, I would be doing oil and gas. Like wherever the opportunity is, I think I would look for that. It would find me. I would go create more opportunities for myself inside of what makes that place special.
Gotcha.
And, I'm blessed to have found happiness inside of in the entertainment space. But, I would have found this same happiness no matter where I ended up.
Gotcha. And you just hit on the segue into the next portion. So I was going to ask you specifically, in your experience, what makes the D so special? You've touched on that some, but if you could kind of give your overall view, aside from what you already said, what makes the D so special? And we know it made you, but can you just hit on maybe one or two finer points about that?
Yeah, I think it is. Detroit is based upon, like, the people that live in Detroit. The majority of our family came to that place to look for better opportunities for themselves, an equal playing field where they compete with white Americans in getting the American dream for their kids. Right? That's the great migration up north to work at Ford or GM or Chrysler. Every man $5 a day, no matter what his color was.
Right.
So the people in the city are there because somewhere in their lineage, there's a man, a woman, or both that gave up everything they knew down south and came up north to make it. And so that's, I don't want to put too much on, people talk about, is it nurture versus nature, right? And I think Detroit applies to both. Like, it's the nature part of it is that the people most inclined to take chances and try to build success for themselves. Their grandparents, great-grandparents came here to do that. So you get that in your blood already. And then the people that are there, the people that now you're in Detroit and you see, at the time the mayor's Black, the entire city council is Black, everyone, every executives, the lawyer, everyone that you can see yourself in everybody.
Right.
So you were nurtured with this concept that you could be whatever you wanted to be. And so I think it's that nature and nurture thing that's going on there. I think the final thing is, like, it's not all sunshine. You got to work, right? It's a literal it's a literal and it's a metaphor, but also very literal. Like it gets cold, right?
Yeah.
You know, in college, law school was like it's so cold, and the G was that big record. Everybody
Right.
was like, yeah, I was at Harvard. They were laughing with you about it, but it's like, no, it's cold.
Yeah.
And so it means that you got to be able to survive in any temperature, any way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we just shoveled snow. Cold meant there was another revenue stream that could shovel the snow.
Mm.
Right? So cold meant that maybe when you're playing basketball outside with your friends, maybe you weren't as good as them when it was warm, but to be able to shoot a basketball when your fingers are frozen, it's a different talent.
Wow.
So it didn't really matter at that point, it didn't matter how fast you are or how fast or how you could jump, because your body performs differently in that weather.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I played on a tennis team in high school, and like playing tennis at the beginning of the year was very different at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting a baseball when it's 0 degrees outside is a different skill set.
Right.
So it's about your ability to adjust and to move and go with the punches and to improvise. That's where the creativity comes. You got to improvise. Whatever's given to you, whatever your skill set is, you can improvise that and make that happen. And sometimes we do very creative things that are very helpful to communities. And in the 80s, we saw a lot of brothers and sisters improvising, doing very negative things.
Yes.
Destructive things, you know, the drugs and the gangs and other things. But, you know, in its core, it's coming from the same space of creativity and improvisation, and also like the desire to like make a better life for you and your family. Man,
you just broke that down in a way I've never even thought about it. That was really deep. I had to take a second to really just absorb what you said. And it's so true. And I agree 100%. And every guest we've had has come from a different aspect, but it's all spoken to that same core that you were talking about. The adaptation, the adaptability, the creativity, the hustle, the grind is all there. And what gets me about the reputation of Detroit in general and at large is that I hear some of the most negative feedback from people who've never been, and I just say, no, don't do that. Until you've been there, don't speak on it, because you don't know. And I think you spoke to that perfectly when you just encapsulated that. So thank you. Now, we're on the fun part. This is the fun part, okay? So I'm going to be asking you, this is what we call the Fab Five, you know, referencing the theme of old. And it's going to be 5 different things I want you to name about the D. And so I'm going to give you a different category for each one. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So number 1, your favorite Detroit place or landmark?
Oh. Very difficult. I think it has to be Belle Isle.
Okay.
I think it has to be that. I mean, and I can't say Belle Isle like 2019 Belle Isle. I'm talking like 1985 Belle Isle.
Okay.
Fly, open to the public. You know, picnics, feeding the ducks with the stale bread. The Belle Isle Zoo. I don't even know if the Belle Isle Zoo is still there. The gardens.
The Giant Slide is. I think the gardens might still be there. I know the Giant Slide's still there. That came up the last interview as well.
Yeah. So like Belle Isle, because then, you know, when you're a kid, it's one thing, and then when you got about 15, 16, one of my next door neighbor was 2 years older than me, so you got licensed at 16. So at 14, now I got to do Belle Isle. I had to go cruise Belle Isle, like at nighttime, and you know, so my boat. And it was a thing, you know. It was Belle Isle, and then at one point they had the 7 Mile Strip that went crazy. When we were like in early high school, 7 Mile became bananas. But you know, it's just Belle Isle. Belle Isle to me, it was a lot of good family members, and also was a coming of age. And then like fireworks time, that's where we used to watch it too, fireworks. So it's just that's one of those things that I would put in my close second. Obviously, would be Bablo.
Oh yes, can't be Bablo.
I call that Detroit or Canada, but it's like that Bablo boat, that like that feeling, that going there as a kid in the music park and whatever that was. Yeah. And like it was just a great experience. So those are my 2 things that I feel, you know, are top experiences for me, places that are experiences.
Okay, that was good. All right, so number 2, your favorite restaurant or dish, past or present. So if it's something that doesn't exist anymore, you can name that. Or if it's something current, restaurant.
This is gonna sound crazy.
Okay.
It probably is gonna sound crazy, but it's because I'm like an expat and I don't live there anymore. White Castle is a thing that
okay.
my grandfather took me to White Castle 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
He took my mother there when she was a kid. My mother took us a week. And then they added breakfast when we were around 5th grade, and all of a sudden you go breakfast sandwich on the way to school, in addition to, and so living in Los Angeles there, and I think Boston as well, there were no White Castles on the East Coast. Like that. I mean, definitely not a West Coast. Now they have one in I would go to Las Vegas and eat at White Castles, all those great restaurants, just to get the White Castle experience. Obviously, you can get it in your freezer, but to me, that's the thing. When my brother James and I, we fly back home, that we'll get it as soon as we land out of the airport, and then coming back to the airport, we're gonna stop. We're gonna get White Castle at least twice, because to me, that's just a good, feel-good memory. It reminds me of my grandfather, who unfortunately passed away when I was 9, 10. I was 10. And just, just what my family did. We ate there. It was probably because it was affordable and cheap.
Right.
So yeah, I would say that. I mean, I feel like people go with like Coney, like are you American, or are you national? Like you would pick like one of those, but but from my experience, it's White Castle.
Okay.
In particular, we're in 8 Mile was the one that was close to my house. So that's the one that.
Okay, so that's your favorite one. Cool. Okay, that's a different answer, but I get it. And I, living in the South, a lot of people complain about that like it because they don't think Crystal is comparable. So I've heard that before. That's interesting.
And then if I had to go, so that's me. And if I had to go like not a change, if you're like Walter, I need something more original.
Right.
I would either go Vicky's or Parks Barbecue. Don't know if either of those are up anymore.
I don't know those.
They were both East Side. Vicky's had the red letters. Parks Barbecue was next to the lake. There's this house that had all the trash in the front. It was like a junkyard.
Oh, okay.
That's where Parks was there. But Parks and Vicky's Barbecue were the 2 places that my family would get barbecue, and then Steve's Soul Food.
Right. Yeah, that was very popular. Okay. So. All right. So we're rolling. Now we're on to number 3. Number 3 is your favorite downtown event. So that can include festivals, fireworks, parades, auto show, but it has to be something that happens in downtown only.
That's my favorite. Ooh, that's a tough one. I guess it depends. I gotta say, it kind of changed from like, based on how old I was. But I have to say the Taste.
Okay.
Taste would probably be. So in my head, I was thinking fireworks, Taste, the African. Hart Plaza
African World Festival. That one's come up a few times.
So that's where my mind was. But I'm thinking like now, I didn't. It just depends on like different ages. Like when I was younger, the fireworks did it for me. I got older, not so much. But the Taste was consistently there. Like I remember being very experienced as a kid.
Right.
My aunt, great aunt, as a as a young adult, as a young person, and also a young adult. I would say the Taste Fest.
Okay, Taste Fest. All right. I mean, and I think just about any of the festivals could make the list because they were all so big and just had tons of things to do and eat and see and hear. And it was just a lot going on. So you could never be bored. And it was always a good time. So
it was. Choice. And another sleeper, I don't know if you get this a lot, but and the reason why I didn't add it to my list because I think it might have went away or maybe I aged it. There was a Christmas festival at Cobo Hall. That was crazy when I remember my mom say this too. They used to have it was like a winter wonderland.
Okay. I don't know if I remember that.
But I can't remember that past 9 or 10.
Gotcha.
So I think when that went away.
Yeah, maybe. It sounds like something that was fabulous, but maybe it did. I don't know. That's a good one though. I have to do some research on that. All
Yeah, but
right.
definitely. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. That was my alarm. So we're at the end. Hold on. So we got two more. Number four, your favorite Detroit sports team.
Tigers.
Ah, Tigers, man. Okay. You always went to
Tigers.
games?
84, the first World Series in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be Lou Whitaker. I played second base. Uh,
Okay.
he was black, sweet Lou Whitaker.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Tiger Stadium, did that with my grandfather, my grandmother, my father, my mother. Like I just great memories of baseball. And then when Tigers got good again, that was really awesome. Although we never won the World
Mm-hmm.
Series again, but it was always great to be. It was good when the Tigers were good.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, Tigers. I mean, everyone liked Bad Boys. That was fun, and the Red Wings
Yeah.
were good.
Right.
But it's got to be the Tigers. And then I guess we wouldn't call the Wolverines a Detroit sports
No, we
team,
would
though.
not. No, we would
Okay.
not.
Okay.
All right. And so number five, your favorite Detroit memory. Now you've given us quite a few already. I don't know if you've given us your favorite already. If you can find another, this is the time. Your favorite Detroit memory. There's something really just something that's so Detroit. You can't classify it as anything else.
I think the first time I went to Legends nightclub downtown,
Okay.
because I think it has to be that or the first time I went to Floods with my father on Wednesday. And those two memories, I remember both of them really to me encapsulate what Detroit, Detroit is the only place in the world where you party with your parents like that.
Uh-huh.
Maybe there's some other communities that do it out here in California. I'm thinking some of the Latin communities might do that, but going to the club with your father and your father's friends or your mother and her mother's friends is something that is like a rite of passage. You don't do it when you're 40 and she's 60. You're 18, you're 21, she's 4. There's this sense of because it's like you finally get grown and they accept you as grown and you're out there with them. And then obviously, whether it's Legends or whether it's Floods, it's you can see the colorfulness and the creativeness I was telling you about in terms of the clothes.
Oh,
right?
well, I don't. You might not know this, but my cousin is Judge Craig Strong, so I know all about the colorful clothes.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
Judge Strong got to all in L.A. with.
Yes,
He
he's
bought me my
always
first drink when I passed
everywhere.
the bar. Yes, and he went to high school with my mother. My mother and Judge Strong were classmates.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yes,
so they've known each other for a gazillion years.
Yes, his mother and my grandfather's father were brother and sister, so he's my grandfather's first cousin. But
Copy that.
that's
so
cousin Craig.
Judge Strong, he taught me so many lessons. Most of my lessons with Judge Strong, ironically, all happened in L.A.
Really?
He's so Hollywood.
Yes, he is. He's fabulous.
He's so Hollywood. And Judge Strong would be another character. I would that is a Detroit character.
Yes,
that
most
is
definitely.
Classic and legend, and you can be all over the world and have a Judge Strong story.
Yeah, he's going to be on the show eventually. We got to get our schedules together. He's going to be on.
I've been with him. It's a great example. I pass the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I go to Flood. I'm waiting for my father to get there. I'm having a Judge Strong buys me the first drink, the first round, right? So one of my mom's friends that Floods on Wednesday, which is when the younger people come out, right? And then my dad goes up with his friend, and have drinks with George and my dad's friend, and Mr. Swanson, O'Neill Swanson, and and then my friends come, my cousins, and the people that are my age, and then there's a bunch of beautiful women, and beautiful people there, old and young, having a good time listening to Motown covers.
Right.
The other thing is very great, the type of music you listen to, and the dancing, right? So I always thought it was natural that men dance in clubs.
Right.
I didn't know that everywhere else in the world, not talking about the law school, the men aren't showing out.
Right.
Not everybody is popping it like
Yeah.
like this music. The Percolator isn't like a popular song with everyone. It's like
Everywhere.
it's regional. I didn't know. I thought like, yeah, of course, men dance to "It's Time for the Percolator." It's just I never
Right.
knew that was not,
The thing to do.
like how the rest of the world or rest of like inner cities operated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that is. That's why I would say either of those moments would be like my Detroit memories. Is like these, everything that it's a good just as that. And then if I had to say a youthful memory would be when we won the World Series in '84. My grandfather was in the car and we drove around that night, Belle Isle, and honking the horn and like celebrating with the city. We were super peaceful.
Yeah.
And like, I was what, 6 years old. So I was just old enough to have like real memories and like know what that was and watch the game against the San Diego Padres and like be a part of something that felt very special and amazing.
Right.
To particular to our city, but it really is anytime you party with your parents, that's what it is.
Now that was probably the most original answer I've gotten for that one, and I thank you for it. You got me laughing. My cheeks are hurting. That was fabulous. Walter, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with me and to help educate the world about how great of a place Detroit is and the great people it produces. I wish you so much success in your career and your other creative endeavors. I'm sure you're going to have plenty more to come. I hope we can stay in touch, so maybe we can get you back on a little later when you get some more stuff going and we can learn about other things you're working on. And we'll call it a wrap now. I don't want to keep you all day.
No worries. No, thank you for your time, Linda. I look forward to running into you in person again.
Yeah, when I'm out in LA the next time, because I was out there a couple years ago. I'm coming back because my cousin is a PA, and she actually works with Angela on her show. So I got a cousin doing TV stuff. There's a couple of other cast people out there that are musicians. They're going to be guests as well. So I have a lot of people out there now that I can come see. So I'm planning on coming out there pretty soon. So I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it, Linda. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.